Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattocks, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So I have anxiety, and not just like in the moment right now, but in general, I suffer from anxiety as a thing. And that's anxiety as a challenge to deal with on a regular basis is outrageously difficult. One of the reasons that anxiety is difficult is because it doesn't necessarily have its own sort of language that you work with, right? It's anxiety tends to sort of squeeze out the edges of your everyday life. You'll be agitated and you won't necessarily know why, or you'll be struggling to sit still, or you'll want to go and stuff your face with, food, horrible food, whatever, stuff that's, really just objectively probably not great for you, but it provides some level of kind of like relief to essentially release that anxiety or subvert it with, a pleasurable experience. Whatever that thing you run to kind of make that what is effectively kind of an itch go away, a mental and emotional sort of itch, relieve that itch, is really like a kind of how anxiety will present itself. And for some folks that are maybe a little more physiologically aware, they'll feel maybe the tightness in their chest or the just the overall sort of tenseness of the body, or the obsessive kind of things that you think about or what have you. And what we're trying to surface over the course of this week's episodes is kind of how to identify when you were experiencing anxiety first and foremost, and then what to do with it. Does the Masonic sort of education set give us any meaningful insight as to how to work with something like anxiety should the situation arise in your life? And like any good building project where we're going to excavate or create a new solution to a problem, the very first thing we need to do is that site survey. I need to survey what I'm feeling, survey the emotional responses that my body's providing, the physiological responses my body's providing, and determine kind of what's next. If you don't have that awareness, and a lot of us don't, which may sound odd to some of you, the amount of intrapersonal awareness that a person has is going to be directly related to the nature of how they respond. I'll give you a more concrete example. If you have no idea what you're feeling, what goes in the input side of the conversation, then the outputs are equally mysterious, right? I have no idea why I do that thing. And so in the process of trying to get control over something as challenging as anxiety, which may be legitimate, it may come from lots of good sources, but again, tends to not manifest in a way that's like immediately self-labeling, like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. We need to essentially get that survey done first, so we know what is happening, what's sort of coming through the systems we have access to, that dashboard of controls and lights and signals and all that kind of stuff. So we have a language for what we're experiencing. So what does that mean? That means for situations where you don't know exactly what's going on, the first thing you might want to do is start labeling. I am feeling this. I am feeling that. I am thinking this. I am thinking that. My thoughts tend to circle around this thing or this idea or this concept. We're going to get over the course of the week how to deal with those things because, believe it or not, the solutions for that are a lot more straightforward than they seem. But step one in sort of working with and dealing with anxiety is understanding that you have it. So those behaviors that people talk about, like sitting down and doing kind of a body scan, like what am I feeling right now? Do I have a pain in my leg? Do I have a rapid heartbeat? Do I have tension in my abdomen? Do I carry all of my stress in my shoulders? Any of those kinds of mechanics where you take physiological feedback is, a great step one. Another great step, step one or early step is to take that emotional inventory. What am I feeling right now? Am I angry? Am I happy? Am I, and again, some of these emotional sort of nuances are going to be hard if you've not done this before. When you identify these things, you may not have the full vocabulary for them immediately, because vocabulary surfaces when you're able to essentially identify something you're feeling and need a name for it. So you'll go, I don't even know exactly what this is. Let me go see if I can find the name for that experience or that feeling, which is why we have such a rich vocabulary, at least in English, for the emotional sort of content that we have. Am I feeling ennui? Am I feeling melancholy? Am I feeling, whatever, neglected? Any of those kinds of verbs or adjectives that you can describe the feelings with will help you get to that place where you can give it a label, give it a name, and then start to work with it. So step one in dealing with anxiety is finding out that you have it and giving the symptoms of it a name. I'll talk about what to do with it in tomorrow's episode.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.